Over the last 5 years, we have heard about the most heartbreaking of stories from the bravest of people at the Royal Commission into Institutional Response in Child Sexual Abuse. I, like my colleagues in Parliament, want to make it clear that we believe them. We know they were victims of horrible crimes. We know they were let down by people and institutions that were meant to keep them safe, and we know that they deserve adequate redress for this. In 2013, the Gillard Labor government took responsibility and created the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, and I'm proud to be able to thank my predecessor Greg Combay, the tireless activism of dedicated Hunter locals and, of course, Miss Gillard for this achievement. We have a duty to this nation and to those who bravely shared their experience with the Royal Commission to deliver real justice and appropriate redress. The Labor Party had established this commission. We have supported it throughout the process and we will not be giving up now. We have the chance here today to deliver on the promise of the Royal Commission, to turn appreciation and belief into action, and I look forward to working with the government to address a national redress scheme which achieves these outcomes. The Royal Commission has shown us that it is an all too familiar pattern, that the culture of protecting child abusers has permeated institutions in this country to the highest of levels. On the Royal Commission's website you can read thousands of stories of abuse, neglect and betrayal in institutions across this country. I would like to share one of these now from the Central Coast, another part of my electorate damaged by such abuse. After suffering sexual abuse at the hands of her father and subsequently being forced to live in unsafe conditions which saw her badly burned by a friendly friend, Corinne was made a ward of the state. She was sent to a children's group home on the Central Coast of New South Wales at the age of 11. Corinne and many others at the home were forced to perform sexual acts on other children and are forced to assault other children due to the lack of supervision and a lack of security in that home. Corinne was placed into foster care at the age of 14, where she was again repeatedly sexually abused by one of her guardians. She left this home and nobody from community services supervised where she was or checked on her well-being at the age of 14. This betrayal has stayed with Corinne, who said to the Commission, "No one has ever said sorry for what happened to me in care when I was a child. I was supposed to be looked after." These stories from the Hunter, from the Central Coast and from communities around Australia turned feelings of hopelessness and fear into solidarity and anger. And a public that looked the other way for too long has taken notice and is demanding action. That is what we are here to do now, Madam Deputy Speaker, in this Parliament, to take action in response to these irrefutable findings. This legislation must not fail survivors. Having finally heard their stories, this is now our first chance to start the process of change, to demonstrate that institutions in this country will do what it takes to make sure we do not let them down again. We want to make sure that any legislation guarantees support services are accessible regardless of where a survivor lives or what language they speak. Madam Deputy Speaker, we must be brave. We must go beyond a fear of a few tabloid headlines about providing compensation to people who have been in prison to recognise that this abuse has led to addiction. It has led to massive mental health issues, and the inevitable result of that is criminal convictions. We must provide redress. We must provide justice to all survivors of institutional child sexual abuse, even if they have gone to prison. This is an issue we all have to face together as a nation. We need to be united. State governments, churches, schools and all institutions must together make a statement that survivors have been wronged and deserve better. I want to place on the record my sincere and humble thanks for all those who have made this happen, and to commit myself to working with the Hunter region and the Central Coast region to support survivors and to change this devastating culture. I finally want to acknowledge all those who have lost their lives and livelihoods because of this institutional abuse, pay respect to those who have fought to this day but who were not around to receive the justice they so deserved. I am so tremendously sorry.